Hi, I'm Trip Babbitt, and this is episode 6 of the Effective Executive podcast. And in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about what I consider to be the foundational step or step one of becoming an effective executive. And the first step is building a system map. Now, this is part of the executive education program that I've put together in becoming an effective executive. And we've already talked about in previous episodes about performance and with executives being efficient versus being effective. And efficient is doing things right versus being effective doing the right things. And we want executives to be effective doing the right things. So, the second component that we talked about in association with becoming an effective executive is understanding the difference between an analytical thinker and a synthetic thinker. And most of us are analytical thinkers as executives. Matter of fact, I've stated over 99% of us are analytical thinkers. It's natural. What is a bit unnatural is becoming a synthetic thinker, looking at the broader picture, how the system works, not just your department, but how does the organization operate and what's the thinking behind it. So, becoming a synthetic thinker isn't just something that you can read a book on and say, okay, now I'm a synthetic thinker. It's something you have to practice. It's something that you have to go through a process in order to develop that type of thinking. So this is the part of the executive education program that I emphasize at the beginning as foundational, as step one in what you need to do to become a synthetic thinker. So in the way I have set it up is you look through two different lenses. One is the customer lens and the other is the thinking lens. And this is much different than what you're going to find in a university. They're going to teach you some theory, they're going to teach you some case studies, and then they're going to tell you to copy, organizations that are doing it well. And all of those things fly in the face of synthetic thinking and looking at systems because systems are different. You have different customers, you have different people. There's just an abundance of things that are different in your organization and why you need to look at it and build and construct a system map in your organization as an executive. It's going to give you key insights. It's going to give you a different look at your organization. Now, I first started doing system maps back in 1991, and I based it off of the work of W. Edwards Deming and what was called his famous Figure 1 diagram. And that, in essence, was developed in something some people call a SIPOC, some people a CPOC, but it's basically suppliers, inputs, processes, outputs, and customers. And as time went by, I progressed from there. It's been an iterative process of what works in organizations as far as refining that system map, concluding in what I've built in the executive education program. So what's in there has gone through many iterations in order to get to what I've developed to this point. And it will continue to get updated as I continue to learn from working with different organizations and what's helpful to people in constructing their system map. Now, what's the use of building a system map beyond helping you become a synthetic thinker is it's going to help you identify priorities, and it's going to also help you understand what's important to customers and how well you're delivering on what's important to customers. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to look through two lenses. We're going to look through the customer lens, and we're also going to look through a thinking lens. Now, the customer lens, why do we look through that? Well, to me, customers are the original synthetic thinkers. They don't really care about your departments or your teams or your executives or anything about your organization other than getting what they need from your organization. So when you say, I've got to pass it to another department or another individual or whatever, they don't really care. They just want their uh, their solution, buying the product or getting the service that they need in order to satisfy their wants and needs. So this is why we look through the customer lens. We want to see things as customers see them, because that helps us develop our synthetic, become a better synthetic thinker. Now, in that, you're also going to learn an executive education program about neuroscience. You're going to learn about how things flow through your system. You're going to understand the interactions that your customers have with your organization. You're also going to study the types of interactions they are. Are they avoidable? In other words, did I even need to, did the customer really need to call in, or was there something we could have done to mitigate them calling in the first place, or showing up, or communicating with your organization? It's because if we can eliminate avoidable interactions, then we're going to be able to have a much more not only efficient organization, but it's going to be more effective from a customer standpoint. Um, then we'll look through the second lens, which is the thinking lens. And I use the words just because this is what I came up with, is every organization is designed with certain theories, and I call them theories at work, or theory at work in an organization. What are your theories about things, especially two key areas, control and motivation? And those affect a lot of how you design your organization, the types of service or products that your customers get. The influence, it's these interaction of the parts that we talk about when we're talking in terms of synthetic thinking, and control and motivation are two key ones. Now, there's an abundance of other ones, and in the executive education program, I go through a number of the ones that I run into that may be affecting how your organization performs. So to be an effective executive, the first step is to build this system map. Looking at your own organization, not looking at case studies like the universities tell you to do, and all of these crazy things that don't have anything to do with your organization. Or worse, you copy what Apple did, and it blows up because it's not your organization. It's not the same. You have to build something for your organization. But you'll be able to look at your organization as a system, and then first, because let's say you're an executive over engineering, well, the first thing you got to do is understand your whole organization, how it interacts as a system, before you begin to look at outside of how your organization plays within its industry, within society, and things of that sort. So there are always larger systems at play in your organization. But step one is understanding your own organization as a system before we go out and start to touch on some of these other things. Now, in comparison, you might look at, for instance, an automobile manufacturer is part of, when we talk in terms of larger systems, they're part of the transportation industry. So that gives you a sense a little bit of what we're not going to address at the beginning, because the baby step, the first step, is putting all of your departments and teams and things and understanding, first of all, how it operates as a system, and the interaction of those parts in that system, and then moving on to broader types of systems that you don't want to worry about at this point. So from there, once you have the system map, you can go to constructing your aim. Now you understand a little bit about what the customer is trying to get out of it, and then understand how you think about things like motivation and control. Now you can begin to understand how to build an aim. And I've said in previous videos that it's very difficult, I think, for organizations to build their purpose or aim or mission or vision or any of those types of things without being synthetic thinkers. Being a synthetic thinker will give you a lot of clarity about the purpose of your organization. As a matter of fact, I find it very difficult for an analytical thinker and an efficient thinker to even be able to construct a cohesive aim or purpose in an organization. So aim construction comes, then there's decision making, then there's innovation, then there's executive data analytics, and then there is customer and organizational design. But the foundational piece of all of this is first of all getting you to become an effective executive by building or constructing that system map of your organization. It'll do all the things I've talked about previously. Now, who is this for? As I've mentioned, it's for veteran, new, and aspiring executives. But that doesn't mean there are other people who wouldn't benefit from putting a system map together. It's just that I've targeted my training towards those three types of folks. So, as a first step, if you want to kind of get a feel for what the executive education program is like, you can go to the 95method.com/starter kit. And it's really 5 videos of kind of getting you acclimated to the thinking and the education program, because you don't know me maybe and I don't know you, but do you like the types of things that I'm talking about, and does this make sense for you? And because it's free, it gives you a sense to kind of trial run what it is that you'll be going through. Now, the other thing you can do, if you're already sold on it, then you can go to the 95method.com exec ed, which is EXECED, and then you put that in, and that will take you to the course. There's a number of free previews that you can look at with regards to the course, give you a little bit more of a sense of what the executive education program is about, and building the system map. Now, I'm already in the process of adding to it. So the other things that I talked about, you'll get, in essence, constructing the aim. I'm working on that right now with a partner of mine. I'm also working on the decision-making module. And so I'm going to be adding to this over time. And right now the price is like $297. If you go through the starter kit, there's a discount in there if you finish the exercises associated with them and send them off to me. Then you get a discount from that particular price. So it's kind of worth going through the starter kit, not only to get a sense of whether I seem like someone that you would want to go through an education program with, but also give you more of a sense of what it is that you would be going through. And then once you move from there, then you look some free previews at the 95method.com exec ed, and go from there. So that's what I wanted to discuss this week, is this effective executive. Step 1 is building that system map, and for all the reasons I've talked about in this episode, will help you become an effective executive and actually make you understand why efficient and analytical isn't enough, and why you need to be a synthetic thinker. All of those are contained within the starter kit and the executive education program. We'll talk to you next week.